traumatized, and that trauma made me, decide to study political economy and black political economy in particular. This one? Okay. Oh, by the way, let me just introduce you. We got our production team. This is Miss Jasmine. Now, Jasmine is going to be on the personal finance podcast next week. She's an entrepreneur, right? And she's going to talk a little bit about the idea of creating multiple streams of income. We got Lieutenant Suarez, right? If you remember him, he was here last week, right, talking about epistemology, and the specialist, other production guy who set everything up, Mr. Javier. Okay, all right. So again, the topic of the day, right? I want to see if any of you, right, has anybody been traumatized by issues of race, right? Something that you might want to talk about. I see Dr. Peraza there, right? So can everybody else see him? I'm going to change that up. Javier. We could
only do something after the chat.
add spotlight.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Peraza. Maybe we could do it that way.
Yeah, spotlight is nice.
All right, Steve, you good? Can you see us? You let us see you? All right, so, okay, we just see your screen though. The wall, can you tell people about that wall?
Freedom Wall?
The Freedom Wall, yeah.
That was for me, I can do his channel.
He's got his mic on.
He's muted.
You're muted, Dr. Peraza.
You can't.
Okay, now you're off.
So the Freedom Wall is perhaps our best.
But he can't
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
They have to unmute themselves.
Yeah. The Freedom Wall is a place I like to go like every Friday at 5.
Okay.
The sunset of the day is a really commemorating of black leaders. But it's perhaps our best monument in the city.
Okay.
Although we can debate that. But
Oh,
it's a fantastic place to really get to know not only national leaders but local leaders. That's probably what's most exciting about the Freedom Wall.
Okay.
Very much.
Okay, good. All right, so if you just want to stay on camera real quick, right? So what I've done is that I'm pretty much introducing, my peers here, right? I mean, it's Dr. Peraza, Dr. Stokes, right? And I'm setting up a conversation about just like how I came to studying the concept of black political economy. And so then I'm offering an opportunity for Dr. Stokes to talk about that too, a little bit about his research interest. I mean, particularly, Dr. Stokes just came out with a book. But we'll get to that real quick, right? With Dr. Peraza, right? Can you just share a little bit about some of your life experiences and what motivated you to go all the way to the penultimate in higher education, which is a PhD? You grew up in the city, right? Okay, you got to unmic. All right.
Yeah, I grew up in New York City, El Barrio, which is East Harlem. What got me to the PhD, I think, two things. One was sheer pride, right? I wanted to press leadership having a doctorate. PR theory in front of my name meant a lot to me as a kid. I didn't really know what that meant in terms of academic practice,
Right.
but I realized that I was into really stop reading. You know, I would catch fire. Even, you know, I started off at a young age really not finishing books, you know, and then took a real interest in biography of Sojourner Truth, biography of Nelson Mandela. You know, in the fourth grade, I started reading these texts. Got a passion for African American literature, so I read a lot of Toni Morrison. You know, in high school, Song of Solomon, and when I got to college, you know, everybody else is sticking up their books, trying to get out of class 5 minutes early, and I'm sticking around, having conversations with the professor, really just enamored by the ideas. So I knew I wanted to go to grad school pretty early on as an undergraduate at St. Lawrence University, and just kind of ran with it. Because if you find something that you're passionate about, you should probably follow up on it. There's a reason that you're passionate about it. Yeah, so I found myself in a graduate program in history here at the University of Buffalo. It was a great opportunity. There was a lot of change happening in my family at the time as well. So I learned how to be a professional scholar in Buffalo. And really, you know, never looked back. Just found something that I love to do.
Okay, that's cool. And what about some of your research interests?
So my area of specialization is slavery, African slavery and global perspective. So I've read widely on different slave regimes around the world, really from a historical perspective. My dissertation work was on manumission, which is the legal release of enslaved people during slavery times.
Okay.
And so I focused on colonial New Orleans, where enslaved people did have positive law allowing them to sue their slave masters for either a price by themselves or to be traded to another master. So there were 1,000 different cases like this in the Spanish colonial period of New Orleans.
So is that a special? Is that special just to New Orleans, or were there other places in the U.S. South where that was taking place?
That's a great question. In the literature, there's a competition, right? Some people say the Spanish have a more lenient system, the English have a more vicious system, because the Spanish were allowing slaves to acquire freedom and the English weren't.
Okay.
That's kind of a myth, because the English were allowing enslaved people to acquire freedom. Just think about cases like the Dred Scott case, which is built on principle, but there are some reasons enslaved people were entitled to freedom. There are very few. And in the English system, there were very few who actually did acquire freedom. But in the Spanish colonial system, there was a greater tradition.
Okay.
Actually, I hope I can bring this back into our discussion of Black political economy, because there is something to be said about how about slave regimes that permitted enslaved people to use the courts, right?
Right. Okay. Real quick, let me like everybody in the class, right? If you want to have a comment or speak on it, you could also don't even necessarily have to unmic and speak. You could also put something into type a message in the chat room also. Okay. Okay. So we got Javier's got a question to you, sir.
Yeah, you say your work is in a dissertation. What's a dissertation?
A dissertation is the ultimate assignment in a PhD program. It's the final piece. It's where you create new knowledge. And the whole idea is you've read widely, you've read hundreds of books, you've discovered a place that deserves more research. So you pour yourself into that research. And what you write as a result is the dissertation. It's an examination of something new that you're creating, a new philosophy. So you end up with a PhD, right? A doctorate of philosophy. You've created a new band of knowledge that you are essentially the master of, right?
Okay.
You're the one person who's made that argument using those records. And so it's kind of your magnum, it's the big assignment assignment that you complete at the end of the PhD program.
Okay. That answer your question? Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, we're gonna switch over to Dr. Stokes. Can you switch that in that direction? Thank you, Dr. Peraza.
Try not to shake the table too much. It makes
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
This is my camera here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
We both.
You're on both of them, yeah. All right. So again, we're just perusing the life experiences and research interests, and actually, Dr. Stokes used to be one of my students,
That is correct.
and now we're good friends. So share a little bit of your life experience and your research interests.
Okay, so before I get into that, let me just clarify a few things. So, my official title is Dr. Carl Stokes Jr., as I pay homage to Dr. Curtis Haynes Jr.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Let's get back clear.
That is true. I do need to let I am a junior. Pay homage to my dad. That's right. I'm a junior. Sorry, pops.
So, but yes, former student of Dr. Haynes. We talk about early 2000s, and he kind of breezed over it a little bit. But what actually happened was, and I'm not sure if he remembers, but what actually happened was I was taking his economics class, and I was facing some difficulties just in life in general. And I stayed after to talk to him, and I told him that he probably won't see me anymore. And at first he said, don't leave. And I said, well, I got these circumstances. And he said, a lot of times people leave, they don't come back. They have the intent to come back, but they don't often come back. And he said, I need you to promise me that you're going to come back and finish. And I did take a hiatus of a pretty large gap, and took care of what I needed to take care of. And I did return, and we had got back in contact and been friends ever since.
Yeah.
So in terms of my particular situation, the main thing my main focus is fatherhood, black fatherhood to be specific. So long story short, I grew up in a very difficult situation, as Dr. Haynes will mention him coming to the States during the crack epidemic. My father was caught up in that, and so I grew up under very tough circumstances and all the things that came along with addiction in the household. And because of that, my relationship with my father was very difficult. So it's in an interesting kind of dynamic. My father was in the home, but because of the issues that he faced, he really wasn't in the home, right? So ever since I was a young man, it's just fatherhood. When it's my turn, I'm going to be the GOAT of fathers and things like that. And as life would happen, I ended up becoming a father at 17 years old, which I did not plan, did not expect. And then went into a whole nother realm of realizing that I don't really know how to be a dad. And so I had a whole bunch of complications with that, which brings me to the present. My research is all black fatherhood, right? So my dissertation is on the perseverance of black student fathers in community colleges, right? I'm an instructor at Erie Community College in the Human Services Department, and I work a lot with the black males, and understanding that some of them are fathers, just like I was a young father in community college, and that's where my work comes from. So my actual book, it's called Reclaiming Visibility, and that is a straightforward guide for black fathers to improve themselves in their relationships with their children. So everything that I'm doing is based around that.
Wow. So you have some. Now, does anybody in the class have a question to ask about the relationship between black fathers and children? Anybody? So real quick, just to make sure I know that everybody's here, let me just get a thumbs up, right, to show that you're here, and and you're listening to what we're doing. Okay, Jayla. Okay, what about everybody else? I need. Okay. Okay. Keep going. Let me see the names. Matter of fact, let me just real quick. Everybody, I'd like everybody just to raise your hand. Where it says raise your hand in the button down in reaction, you can raise your hand. I just want to see that everybody's here. Okay. I mean, if your hand's not raised, then you're not here. Okay, I got a clap over there too. Okay. Okay, what about on the second page? TT, Maya, Paris, Nolan, Ariana, Edgar. What about on the third page? Angel, Ibrahim. All right, what do you think, Ms. Phelps? Are they here? Okay. I got a full page there. Okay, so those with your hands up, any questions?
Yeah, those names you called are here.
Okay. All right. All right. So let me get a question, right? If we want to get some grades out of this class today, all right? The format, Dr. Stokes, is that all for one, one for all.
Okay.
Right? And we recognize that there's different ways of learning, different ways of teaching.
Sure.
And so right now everybody's starting out with an A, but if I have to get some questions from you to really get a feel that you guys are with us. So can I get a question?
I have a question.
Okay.
Would you recommend having a job in high school and college, or would you recommend focusing on studies?
Okay. Would I recommend having a job in high school or college or focus on studies? I don't know. That's a great question. I think that I know that when I was in high school, right, I really wasn't focusing on studies. Right, I think I was just trying to make a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. My high school experience was really, I was just hustling. Right, I love basketball. I wasn't thinking about a job. Right, but I wasn't in the environment where I had to bring money home. Right, my dad he was a sergeant in the military, so we had food. Right. And then I think with my first, I don't know, you people don't know about this, right? Maybe you do, but I was a paper boy, right? That was the first time in high school, right, that I brought money home. So I did a lot of hustles in high school. I worked, as a stock boy and janitor, right? A small short order chef, or not short order chef, short order cook, right? So that allowed me to, by and large, I use that money. But going back to Jonas, you're asking that question. Maybe you could add a little bit behind where's the question coming from, Mr. Brown?
I have 2 jobs right now,
Uh-huh.
and I'm having a little difficulty balancing my jobs and school.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm trying to pay for my car and stuff from the house for my mom and stuff.
Right. Okay. What do you think, Dr. Stokes?
Very subjective. So my situation, I didn't have a choice but to work because the household needed the income. But what I would say to that is, to the young man who asked the question, you mentioned not being able to balance, and I think that's the key right there. So do you need to have 2 jobs in order to maintain, your car or your lifestyle, whatever you're looking to do? Is there something you can pull back on in terms of hours and things like that? I am for working in high school just for the simple fact that it enhances social skills, and sometimes that actual work experience is very important because I know plenty of people who've never worked, and then they went through a lot of schooling, and then when it was time to get into the workforce, you know, they had to learn from scratch. Whereas, you know, people who was working at the mall or doing paper routes and things like that, you know, have already started to develop that. So I think it's definitely an individualized kind of situation. But if you already telling yourself that you're having a hard time balancing, you know, I think that is what you need to focus on. I don't think there's a concrete answer to that. You know, just based it on your situation. Like I said, can you pull back on hours or one of the jobs, or can you do a more efficient job in terms of scheduling and using time management for the studies, and then not pull back on the work hours at all?
Okay. That's great. All right. How about you, Dr. Peraza? What do you think?
I've got two minds here. I kind of wish when I was in high school, I paid a lot more attention to work and earning money. I wish I would have spent time with my folks, learning how to do bills, financial literacy. I gained that much later on, and therefore wasn't able to make decisions that I wisely, or what I thought was wisely, until much later in life. So I think being introduced to the world of work and high school was a fantastic thing. At the same time, when I was an undergraduate, I wasn't going to let work interfere with my studies, and I knew that if I worked 20 hours, which was the most that a work-study student in college could work, then it would be a challenge to me academically. And so what I tried to do is find jobs that allowed me to do work at them. So library, the writing center. I started to find jobs that were in my area that would afford me time to still do what I love to do in terms of grades and my classwork, but also, you know, or I should say, just wasn't onerous, right? It didn't really hurt what I was trying to do. But you know, I just want to raise a further question here too. Is there's you know, what are we doing in education? Are we preparing people to be consumers and workers, or are we?
Okay, I think you're freezing up, Dr. Peraza. Yeah, I mean, I think again, it's we should take in consideration that, you know, education is not a black box, right? So, yeah, I mean, formal education, reading, writing, and arithmetic, I mean, they're very valuable, but we also have to understand that, you know, the education that you get, Dr. Peraza, and I think maybe even Dr. Stokes, right, is that, you know, I only saw being able to generate an income through wage labor. I'm a state employee, right? And now the kind of things we're doing right now is that I'm using my education, right? This space that I'm operating from, this academy, right, is real estate that I purchased at a certain point in my life, right? And it generates cash flow, and it also allows me to bring in people who are relevant to my life and relevant to my mission. So whether it's a formal education, and the thing is like, you know, Dr. Stokes mentioned it, is he had children at a very young age. I did too, right? So I had to work and go to school at the same time. I really had to develop almost like a Superman consciousness. Is that you know, it's like there were many times where you know, for example, in the educational environment, right? If I'm working 30 hours a week and then going to school 30 hours a week, right? Then, you know, I came up in an educational environment with some other folks who did not have to work, and they were studying 60 hours a week, right? And so I felt that my education was deficit because I couldn't put in the same time as these other folks who were financially more astute than I was, right? But you know, I would say that I continue to follow my dream and follow my passions and develop them, right? I like, for example, I'm an economist, but I never, like, economics chose me, And for me even to go to college, my mother made me go to college. I wasn't.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, my mom made. She's like, look, I'm not too sure I like what you're doing, right? You need to do something with your life, right? And so if it was up to me at the time, it was between working and college, I would have worked. But now at my stage in life, right, education is so, and again, not necessarily just formal education. As I might have mentioned to you, is that I believe that today in the 21st century, we got to be a jack of all trades and a master of some. Right? We need to learn everything. We need to take knowledge away from just like, you got the internet. That's the thing about education, right? Like a lot of my teaching over the last 5 years, right? I learned, I'm self-taught with some of the stuff, right? My work in financial markets, my work in the stock market, right? I was self-taught. So education, working, figuring out how to secure your daily bread, putting food on the table, they go hand in hand. The bottom line is you're going to have to be, not to say you have to be, but we're in the 21st century, right? The entrepreneurial spirit. You have to have super desire. Now we got Javier. He's
Got some questions in the chat.
okay.
If you want to just
Okay.
the last two questions in there.
All right. So we could go ahead and do that. These last two questions because they do fit. Right. So for example, and this could be for Dr. Stokes or Dr. Peraza. I'll hold off on mine. So going through your life, right? Going through it, what challenged you the most?
What challenged me the most?
Just give me a second. Talk to my group. I'm going to
Gotcha.
be right there.
Gotcha. Okay, so what challenged me the most was the fact that I was unable to have the type of relationship with my first child. Again, like I said, due to being a young father, and due to coming up in poverty and not knowing how to do certain things. So the most difficult part was trying to figure it out. What actually happened was once I learned that I was going to be a father when I was in high school, what I did was panic and join the United States Marine Corps, because I just figured I need to, as soon as I graduate, I'm out of here, I gotta get some money, I gotta take care of this kid. So what happened was, I used to play basketball a lot, and in my training to go to boot camp, I damaged my knee, and it caused me to actually fail my final physical before my ship out date. So I didn't have a job, I had not applied to any colleges, and my plan to go to the military just fell apart. And so that was by far the most difficult part, was trying to figure it out and bounce back. I have this newborn child, I have no source of income, and I hadn't taken any SATs or applied to any colleges or anything like that. So having to try to find work and make a few dollars an hour here, and as Dr. Haynes mentioned, only thinking that the way to earn money was wage labor, and trying to figure out how to be a dad at the same time, right? So that was a really tough period, for me, and it lasted a while. You know what I mean? So I had to figure it out. I had to figure it out during all that. Yeah.
So, Dr. Peraza, you want to speak on that also?
Yeah, I was trying to gather my thoughts on that. It's a really tough question for me. I think the biggest problem I ever had, or the biggest problem I continue to have, is just fear of success. I had found ways to put obstacles in my own way. A lot of times it's just chasing ambitions that I wasn't sure I really wanted. For example, I dropped out of high school. I wanted to be a rapper. We were rapping in the town. What the hell am I going to go to school for? I want to rap. Then I started working. I was making pennies. ignorance, because I always had a frown, being rude. It was a harsh realization that, maybe what I wanted is not the best course of action for me. And there have been a couple of other times in life where, I think about Jay-Z's song Allure, right? Like you're drawn to something, you're almost lusted, and when you get too close to it, you realize that it really wasn't all that you thought it was going to be. So I call that self-sabotage to some degree. I call it fear of success, chasing something that, isn't necessarily the best option for you. That's happened to me a couple of times. It's still the biggest challenge in my life, figuring out what I really want and then making sure that what I want is going to help me and those around me, as opposed to just fulfilling a quick need.
So that's real interesting that, you at the pinnacle of a academic success at a PhD level, that you're sharing with us a fear of success, right? And you know what? I would say the same thing too, right? I've had a level of fear of success, and maybe that's what's kind of driven me to be successful, right? Because I don't know, I've come in contact with mentors who have taught me to challenge my fears, right? And so I think, like, just in the broad category of success, right? Like for some reason, my cultural background is that I also had a level of fear of success, but I was fortunate enough that I had people in my life that, no, you need to challenge that fear. And so I did challenge it, right? I was able to get my PhD, and now, right, I'm kind of like on the other side, right? It's like now I feel like a visionary, right? Is that it's like was it Robert Greene and 50 Cent did that book, The 50th Law, and the 50th law was fear nothing, right? And so I started developing that, but now it's like the first law is like love everything, right? It's like I'm following a dream, I'm following a passion, I'm following my desires, and that's where I'm at in my life right now. But the idea of fear of success, right? Being a black child, a black kid, right? Being in those classrooms where other kids would laugh at you and treat you like you're, you don't know anything. I mean, middle school is tough, right? There's a lot of scars that come in through that, right? And then wanting to be part of another group, the so-called like the cool kids, right, or what have you, right? But now, like I said, it's clear, right, that success is a choice, as is failure, right? And I would say that Dr. Peraza is choosing success, and I think Dr. Stokes is choosing success also. Would you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now this is a good one here, right? Well, okay. So the question: how is it being a black father raising children?
Oh man. I'm loving it like I always thought I would at this point. It took me a while to get here. But the best part of it for me is knowing that I went through all of those rough periods and all those mistakes, and I learned, and the fact that I can share with my children, the type of things that I wish I would have learned as a child, and I can include them in everything that I'm doing, right? So they can see, and I have girls, so I want them to see what a black man is supposed to do, how they're supposed to handle business. So even with my books, my daughters have books published, right? And my daughters are learning about passive income and things like that. Yeah. I did some, because like I said, I don't know where our cameras are. I'm supposed to be looking, but my daughters have children's books, right? And it's so funny because my little 8-year-old will come home and she'll ask if any checks came in from the
And what's your answer? Is she getting her royalties?
Yeah, she getting them, but I'm investing them.
Yeah.
You know, so that book is a book on self-care for children, and it's a little bit of it's a little bit of incorporating what I do as a social worker, and focusing on self-care and teaching them about that and letting them run with it. And then they're working together, you know, as siblings, and you know it's like a family business, you know. So that's my favorite part.
Well, that's important, right? Because I think, like, again, this class is an economics class and an economics and finance class, and you know, most of us, right, were raised off of, you know, like our parents went for jobs,
Yeah.
right? And for me, right, what my move to get a PhD, right, was revolutionary in the academic environment, but I still was an employee. And what you're saying, Dr. Stokes, is that you in your household, you have your children thinking more about passive income, right, which is a term I never heard of until like the last 10 years of my life.
Right. Same for me.
And real quick, right, just to you know, we've talked a little bit about passive income in the class, and we're going to, matter of fact, we'll probably do that on Thursday in this class.
Okay.
A little bit about passive income. What does that mean?
So, you know, we talked a little bit about working. We talked about wage labor and things like that. So there's earned income. You know, I go to work from 8 to 4. I earn X amount of dollars per hour, and then I get paid, you know, based on that work. Passive income, you know, we're putting forth something one time that's continuously generating money. So in the case of my girls, they publish a book, and every time someone purchases the book, you know, from the time that they released it, from now on, they receive income from it. So it's passive in the sense that they don't even have to do anything to earn that money anymore. It's just out there for people to consume, and that's a stream that's just gonna go on, you know, forever.
Great. All right, thank you. And so now we got another question, all right? A student is saying that one of the hardest problems they face is the hardest problem I have with learning is overthinking. Mm-hmm. Now I know that Dr. Peraza, he spends, you know, he's a philosopher in this, and he's always thinking, right? And I think that maybe you could speak on that point. What do you think? Is that your problem? I mean, I don't actually. I'm trying to change my language, right? I'm trying to change my language where I don't see problems, right? But I do overthink. I feel I think I'm in my head a lot. But what about you, Dr. Peraza?
I call it a severe intellect.
Severe.
People think I'm being arrogant, but it's not that. It's that it ruins my relationship sometimes.
Oh, wow.
Processing so much, thinking so much that I don't accept what I see at the moment. You know, you have to be in the moment. That's the end of it. You know, being in the moment.
Okay. All right. So yeah. So what about? I mean, the thing is, we get paid. Like I get paid by the state for being a thinker, right? But again, like sometimes one of the issues of overthinking is that you might miss the boat, right? You know, if you overthink. I mean, you know, I've heard some of the inspirational, and I think Javier would be this, right? It's got to be 10% thinking, 90% action. Is that what you say, Javier?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got. I mean, we got to move our thinking to action. But we don't really want like random action, right? The action has to be built around dreams, desires, goals, and aspirations. And if you're bringing your thinking around dreams, desires, goals, and aspirations, thinking about that is not overthinking. But like, think about whether you want to do this or don't want to do that, and then you end up not doing nothing, then truly that is, from my perspective, that is a form of overthinking. Now, Leah Gray's got this question, right? And like, do you think it's too much pressure to make decisions about careers when you're only 17, 18 years old and you're a senior in high school? Is it too much pressure? Right? Should they have a little bit more freedom? I mean, a little bit more space? I mean, that's one thing about, for me, like the pandemic, right? And it's challenging of the formal college experience. I would say my formal college experience, when I was 18, 19, a lot of it was social, right? It was like I had that space. I was able to go to college. I didn't have to worry about putting food on the table, right? I could go to class or not go to class, right? If I didn't go to class, I got the grades that reflected that. But you know, when I went to class, I had those grades. But a lot of my experience was not in the classroom. It was, you know, I was part of the student government association, right? I was an editor for a newspaper, a college newspaper, right? So yeah, maybe it's being like having to make a decision about the career at 18 years old. Because when I was 18, I mean, if I would have done the career choice that I had at 18, I wouldn't be here.
A professional player.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, what do you think?
Well, what I will say is that everything that I'm doing right now was nothing that I've ever thought about doing or that I wanted to do. I never planned on being a college instructor. I never planned on being an entrepreneur. I never planned on writing books, right? And at 18 years old, I was a different person. And in order to become who I am now and do the things that I'm doing now, I had to experience figuring it out, not knowing. And it's okay to have a plan, but understand that, you know, you can have a plan to, you know, open a grocery store, but as you learn and work towards doing that, it may spin off into other things, you know. So I think planning is good, but understand that is not necessarily going to be the end game.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you're going to experience a lot of revolutions in your life. It's not like the feudal era or the slave era or even the hunter-gatherer era, where you might go 1,000 years without any major change in human life. Mm-hmm. Like today, Jeff Bezos is 62 miles up above the earth right now, right? Mm-hmm. Those are revolutionary things, and to I'm quite sure that all of us are going to experience a lot of things in our lives many times over the next few years. Now, another question here I see is any regrets, right? Particularly, how did it feel when you moved out of your parents' house? Was it hard? Well, I know when I moved out of my parents' house, I wrote a Declaration of Independence. I'm out of here. I gotta go. All right. So, what about you, Dr. Peraza? Was it hard moving out?
I'm with my mom right now.
Okay, still there.
I love my mom. I got my grandmother here. It's like I'm reconnecting the family. I mean, I've been through a lot, right?
Yeah.
I mean, reconnecting the family. It's been a wonderful thing. But yes, when I left the house, I had no expectation to ever come back to my mom's house.
Yeah.
Coming back has been a real privilege.
Okay.
So I got a different experience in that.
All right. Well, I mean, we're coming up near time to close this out, right? So again, thank you for participating in this podcast and spending time with my middle, early college, high school students. Ms. Phelps, thank you. Any parting words?
Yeah, I would say, especially to this age group, take advantage of opportunities that come. Pick the brains of people who are making things happen. You have great resources. Like I said, a lot of what I've ended up doing was based off of a simple conversation with Dr. Haynes like 20 years ago. Yeah. You know what I mean? So take advantage of the people who've been to different places and learn from their experience, and then experience things on your own. You know.
Okay, great. Dr. Peraza.
Appreciate everything, particularly the moment that you're in now, people that you're around, things that you love to do.
Okay.
Just appreciate it. Take some time to think about it, appreciate it, celebrate it. These are the great things in life, the stuff that you love, the stuff that makes you feel good. And then you'll find everything else, all the other questions, they get resolved over time.
So appreciation and gratitude, are that important?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're revolutionary ideas. Last week, Rob and I talk about this all the time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Appreciation. Appreciate the moment. First start with the moment, and then look at the people around you and everything that you have. Don't worry about what you don't have or what you don't want. Think about what you have. What makes it great. Why you're grateful for it. You'll find everything else works itself out.
Beautiful. All right, I think that's a great way to end this podcast. All right, so for my class, I just realized I'm going to send to Ms. Phelps your assignment for tomorrow for your Wednesday asynchronous class, and we will be meeting on Thursday. Thanks for spending time with us. We're dismissed. See you Thursday, but remember, you do have an assignment for tomorrow, and I'll be handing that over to Ms. Phelps, and she'll put it up on Schoology. You good?
All right.
Okay. Yeah, the homework, the assignment will be for your Wednesday class. All right, spoke too soon. You're right. Okay, take care. Ms. Phelps, we good? I'm going to send you that assignment probably in the next hour.
Okay, I'll be looking for it.
All right, thank you.
All right.
And that's a wrap. I can
That's
finish
a
on here.
wrap. Yep.
All right.